English 9 analogical evidence. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is how we define analogical evidence, learn what that evidence includes, and determine when it's being used in an argument. So what word do you see in analogical? And what is the best guess on what analogical evidence is? So the first word I see is like analyze or analogy. And basically what an analogy is used for is to compare two things. So an analogy is a comparison between two things, and that comparison is used to determine the relationship between different sets of things. So bark is to dog as meow is to cat. So effective analogies include these components: a comparison of something that is known with something new. It provides a preview of what is to be learned, and it makes abstract concepts understood. So analogical evidence compares something that's not certain or unknown with a situation that is known. Then the text draws conclusions based on that comparison. Although there are significant weaknesses in this type of evidence, it is sometimes the only option for offering support. To make this an effective type of support in writing, you need to make a strong case for the similarities between the situation about which you're writing and the situation that's a known case. So these are some examples of analogical evidence you might use: a peer-reviewed study that is similar in many ways to the topic in your essay, an expert opinion about something very similar to your topic, a court case or historical event that's similar to your thesis, statistics from a journal or direct research that's related to your topic but not exactly the same. So we're going to go through this kind of analogy to talk about what we're talking about. So student loans are a permanent responsibility that must be paid off during a lifetime. Is this a good analogy? Why or why not? So in this picture, we see a man trying to propose to someone, and she says, "I'd love to, but I'm already in a long-term relationship." And we can see that she's tied to her student loan officer. So there's an analogy that student loans, since you take them out and can be for many, many years, that you're kind of tied to them, and that you're so consumed in paying them off for the rest of your life that it's almost like it's a relationship or a marriage. So if you kind of went on with this analogy, it says, "Why is always having a dog eat your homework for real similar to some student loans?" So you would say, then my dog ate my homework. You're holding up your homework and it looks like it's like been eaten up. And then it says, my student loans ate my future. So there's another comparison saying that it's stopping people from doing things because they're constantly paying a bill. So that's where they make that analogy. Then it says, what two things are being compared and how are they similar? So I see a huge bag that says debt, which is money that you owe. And it says, just think of yourself as in training. And then this is like a kid with like a K-12 shirt on, and this is a college shirt. So they're basically saying, get ready when you're in college because you'll be leaving with a ton of debt. Now, again, this is somebody's own opinion that they're kind of trying to show as if it's, being compared to how much it will follow somebody if they have it. So knowing how to use the different types of evidence is essential for any kind of persuasive writing, including essays. Each type of evidence has strengths and weaknesses, and how you use them depends on what you're trying to prove. Consider mixing multiple forms of evidence and the supporting details for your essay to make the strongest argument. All arguments from analogy involve an analogy. So an analogy is a comparison between two or more things. What do they prove? Even when analogies are employed in arguments, they do not always prove without a shadow of a doubt. So remember, a lot of these analogies can kind of come from opinion. No argument from analogy can support a proposition with absolute certainty. All they can do is show that the conclusion is probably true or likely to be true. So I want you to move on to your L6 assignment today. We're going to go to number 1. Is this an effective analogy? Why or why not? Cell membrane. compared to the doors. So the cell membrane controls what goes in and out of the cell, and the doors control what go in and out of the ball. So your response should tell me if you think this is effective, why or why not. I would think yes. If you're trying to compare things that would enter in and out of the cell, then you could compare those certainly to people entering in and out of a mall. You could also look at it maybe from like the scientist standard and say like what's actually going in and out of the cell is not the same, but you'd have to prove that with evidence. But I think that that's like a pretty good one. For number 2, I want you to give me an analogy of these two things, a teenager's bedroom and a landfill. So what could be the same between a teenager's bedroom and a landfill? Well, I would say that a landfill is like the dump. It's a place where like you put garbage. So you might say that they're similar because a teenager's bedroom could be really messy, and that's kind of the vibe you get when you think of a landfill, that there's a ton of trash, it's not really organized, unless you're really neat as a teenager. Then you're going to write me an analogy between a drill sergeant and a PE teacher. So a drill sergeant is somebody who gives orders, makes people in the Army do certain things and kind of fall in line and learn exercises and drills. A PE teacher, a gym teacher, how would they kind of be alike? So you're going to give me an analogy for how those two things you think are similar. And then your last one is, how can you write a simple analogy comparing homework to a mountain? So how are homework and mountains alike? Is homework as big as a mountain because you get so much of it? Or is it just, do you think that you get a lot of work? Maybe it's not necessarily homework. So what you're going to do is complete that and let Mrs. Bickle or I know how we can help you or assist you with this.